If you want to scale a 6, multiple 6, or 7-figure per year real estate business, your ability to do so as a realtor is defined by managing the constraints I'm going to go through today. So these are the top 6 skill sets that a real estate agent needs in order to thrive, continue to break through plateaus, and build a scalable real estate business. We're going to dive into each of them, and I'm going to explain why they're so important and how you actually need to develop them in order to build a flourishing real estate business. If you don't know who I am, my name is Mike Sherrard. I help thousands of agents scale their business using social media. I'm with eXp Realty, with the Wolfpack, and today I want to define something very important to you, which is the top skill sets you need. And before we get in, 76% of you that watch my videos are not subscribed. So even if you never watch another video of mine in your life, please just show me a bit of love, make my day by smashing that subscribe button. And if you do get value from this, which I hope you will, please make sure to like. So let's go through these top 6 skill sets that you need in order to build a thriving real estate business. Now, the first one is the most important one, and the last one is also probably the second most important one. The first skill set by far is communication. Okay, so let me define why communication is so important. You've got multiple things that you need to do as a real estate agent. You've got prospecting, you've got lead gen, you've got buyers presentations, you've got listing presentations, and depending on which brokerage you're with, you also might have agent presentations. So let me break this down for you and explain why this is so important. Let's break down prospecting and lead generation for a second and break down the numbers. So let's say that on average, and again, the numbers could be different, but I just want to paint a picture for you. So let's say on average, if you're generating, every 100 leads you convert at 1%, or every 100 calls you get, one person's contact information, and maybe every 500 calls you get a booked appointment. Either which way, let's use 1% as an example. The way that people build a scalable real estate business is they don't say, how can I get more leads? What they say is, how can I increase my conversion? Because what happens, and I did this on a different video, is what a lot of people think that instead of increasing conversion, a lot of people think that the solution to their problem is to generate more leads. So instead of going from 100 leads a month, they go to 300 leads per month. But the problem is the ability to actually convert that decreases because you're spending more time doing it. So oftentimes it goes down to 0.5%. Whereas if you just worked on the communication skills to bring this up to 3% with the 100 leads you were doing, now what's going to happen is, again, if you look at this number, you can either 3x your business just by doing it this way, or if you're actually looking at a volume of 300 leads, you're 18xing your conversion based on what are assuming. So the best way to build a scalable, predictable real estate business is to actually focus on your communication skills to increase your lead conversion so that you can go from 1 to 3% with the leads that you have. And that way, as you can see here, you're increasing it by a magnitude of 3x. And that's how you can start to build it efficiently, because you don't want more volume, you want more quality. Now, again, even looking at buyers, for example, if we're looking at how to increase buyer and listing presentations, here's the thing that I want you to understand. Buyer presentations are pretty easy, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. But what I will spend time on is listing presentations. Now, if you do want to know how to win every listing, drop a comment below, because I do have a video that explains the psychology and the methodology behind doing so. So drop a comment and I'll gladly send you that video. But let's look at this, for example. A lot of people make the assumption with listing presentations that the reason why they're not winning listing presentations is because a different agent has more money or more years of experience. But that couldn't be further from the truth. And what you'll see is that these are actually irrelevant, right? Even though an agent might have more money, even though they might have more years of experience, when you're looking at money, for example, oftentimes what happens is they might have more money, but they don't allocate it properly. And oftentimes with years of experience, you could have an agent that's got 20 years of experience, but they just relived their first year for 20 years ongoing. They didn't scale every year for 20 years. So what you need to understand is that by increasing and developing your communication skills, you have the ability to adapt to each situation differently. You have the ability to understand what a seller is actually looking for and to tailor your presentation to each individual scenario. And not only that, one of the biggest things is when you're able to very strategically communicate a unique value proposition. And that's what I did when I was a new agent, is the ability to, again, look at each person's situation, read people differently, communicate with them in a way that aligns with them, and then be able to communicate a value proposition that would put you ahead of people with more money, more experience, just based on your ability to communicate how important that is. And again, that's actually why about 98% of the agents that are looking to join my group at EXP join us versus any other group. And this is because when you're great at communication, but you also, so you're increasing your communication, but you also have an increased value proposition that is bigger than your competition, then naturally it's going to make the conversation that much easier. But communication is by far the number one skill. So let's go on to number two. Okay, so going on to the number two skill, which we'll go down here, is self-accountability. And the reason why this is so important is because, again, you are a solopreneur as a real estate agent. And a lot of people come from either high school, university, or 9-to-5 jobs, where what happens is they have a boss. And when you have a boss and you don't do what you're doing, there's repercussions. And you either get in trouble, you either get fired, and there's different things that happen whenever you are not responsible for what you're supposed to be doing by not being self-accountable. Now, when you are a solopreneur, like a real estate agent, if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing, there is actually no repercussions until 6, 8, 12 months down the road when you don't have any money and you ultimately fail out of the business. But this is one of the things, is being able to stick to a schedule that is proven to work. And this includes doing the difficult tasks like prospecting, networking, following up with clients, leveraging your sphere, reaching out to new prospects. Any of these things take self-accountability, because ultimately it's very difficult to continuously do this. And what you'll see, and this is something that I hope you take from this video, is the realtors that are successful do the boring things over and over and over consistently. So a lot of people think that real estate is this sexy business, but what we'll realize is that in order to get to the point where you are doing all of the incredible luxury stuff, you have to do the boring things over and over and over. And that does take self-accountability, because it is not the stuff usually most people want to be doing. But if you have the ability to stick to a schedule, and a schedule that is predicated on income producing activities that move the needle, you are going to put yourself miles above the majority of agents. Now, number three is going to be an interesting one. And this is one where a lot of agents, especially in today's market, are struggling, which is adaptability. And what do I mean by this? So what's happening right now is, in any market, for example, there's two things that are constantly changing, which is technology, and then you've got the economy. And what you'll see is that there's agents that are thriving and there's agents that are surviving. And the ones that are thriving are adapting to technology. So they are learning things like TikTok. And if you want to, know how to leverage this, or if you want to follow me, because I put out a daily video every single day with new tips that I don't put on any other platform, follow me on TikTok at Mike Sherrard, and I'll put it in the pinned comment. But leveraging things like TikTok, leveraging things like Facebook and YouTube ads, or anything related to technology that is going to move the needle further. Because ultimately what you'll see is, especially agents right now, a lot of agents are struggling with listings, right? They're struggling with listings and they have no sellers. And what you'll see is the agents in my group at EXP that started going heavy on video following my proven processes are the ones that are crushing it with listings and sellers, because they are putting out value-driven content on YouTube that is attracting clients at scale. They were adapting to technology based on what's relevant today's market. And a lot of agents are saying, well, I used to do this back in the day, so I'm going to keep doing it. But what happens when you do that is you ultimately fall behind, and eventually you fall so far behind the curve that you don't know how to get back on the tracks. So the next part again is economy, because this is another really important one. And what you'll see is that there's going to be sellers markets, there's going to be buyers markets, there's going to be markets where you have to start dealing a lot more with REOs or foreclosures. And if you don't have the ability to learn skill sets and be able to adapt your marketing, your positioning, your branding to any of these different things, whether it be right now like a seller's market, in my market previously a buyer's market, or if the economy goes crazy, REOs or foreclosures, it's really important to know that the ones that adapt to that thrive, whereas the ones that don't struggle to survive, which is why you see a lot of agents, during the 08-09 crash, they got wiped out, whereas the ones that started focusing on these down here built massive businesses that not only thrived, but thrived through this downturn. Now, the next thing that I want to go through is patience. So this is number 4, which is patience. And this is important for a couple of different things. Now, the first couple of things that I want to talk to is growth. And then I want to talk about marketing, and I want to talk about branding. So when we look at these, for example, a lot of people struggle with patience because they get into the business, they do 0 deals for 3 months, and then they realize, I didn't have enough money saved, I don't know what to do. Or even they do their first full year, they didn't hit their 24 deals that they wanted to, they hit 5. and they really don't have the patience to keep going because they think it's not for them. But the ones that thrive are the ones that have the patience to understand that it is a delayed gratification game. Now with marketing, it's the same thing, where as if you look at a lot of people that are running Facebook ads, for example, I do this example all the time. So oftentimes what happens when you look at a typical sales funnel is you've got cold leads, you've got warm leads, and you've got hot leads. So when you're looking at building a real estate business on online lead generation or any sort of prospecting, you want to start with the cold audience, bring them to the warm, and then convert at the hot. And cold audiences are people who are unaware of you. Warm audiences are people who have become aware and started building the like, know, and trust factor. And hot are people that are ready to book appointments. Well, one of the big problems with agents not having patience, which is most of them, is that they are running their marketing to what would be considered a warm audience in terms of how they're approaching their ads, but they're actually running it to a cold audience expecting a hot audience outcome. So you have to understand that in order to build it the right way, it takes time. It takes time, it takes money, and it takes almost like the concept of slowing down to speed up, take 2 steps back to take 10 steps forward. You need to be spending some money to not get immediate results in order to build a hotter pipeline over time, which is what happens with branding and marketing. So with branding, again, it takes time to build up your brand, and that is another aspect of it. Now, the second last one, before we get into the one that's really important, 5 is grit. And when I'm talking about grit, I'm talking about things like mental toughness, and I'm talking about, emotional management. And these are really important, but nobody talks about them because it's maybe not the most attractive thing to talk about. But what you have to understand is, looking at these two aspects, a lot of people don't realize when getting into real estate that your emotions are tied to your transactions. And if you do 5 deals 1 month, you're over the moon. If you do no deals for 2 months, you're in the gutter. And your ability to manage your emotions is really important, especially, even looking at, your mental toughness, right? Like this is something that I had to develop because I zigged while everybody zagged. I took a different approach to real estate in my city by leveraging social media strategies when nobody was. And a lot of people talked negatively. And I had to build up this skill set of understanding that the only people that have said anything negative are people that have never done as much as I have. But these are really important in terms of, making sacrifices, missing out on fun things, and having the mental fortitude to keep going when you're missing out on the fun stuff. You're not living the life that you want to be right now for a delayed gratification, further opportunity. So grit is really important because you're going to be put through the ringer. It's going to be stressful. You're going to have anxiety, emotional management, all this kind of stuff. But if you can manage this and you can develop this skill set because it's a muscle over time, it will set you leaps and bounds above the competition. Now, the last one, and this is one of the biggest ones, number 6 is, can you guess it? Organization. And let me explain this to you. The reason why this is so important is because when you're doing, maybe 0 to 24 deals per year, it's really easy to kind of fly by the seat of your pants and get away by just hanging on by a thread and crushing out deals and, going from one closing to another, one showing to another, and you can get by. But when you want to go from 24 to 50 deals or 50 deals to 100 deals per year, what happens is the only way you can do that is if you have scalable systems and processes. And that's why what you'll see is when you talk to a lot of top producers, a lot of them are leveraging their sphere, but they're leveraging it in a very systematic way, where if you're not using a proper CRM, you are going to fall behind the curve and you're likely going to plateau in and around this mark. So when you start to look at how can you scale, you have to look at how can you leverage things, systematize it so it can become repeatable. That's why, for example, this is always going to be the best example you'll be able to find anywhere. What is this logo? I should could drive better. You've got McDonald's, right? So why is McDonald's such a successful business? Because it is being run by 16-year-olds because their systems and processes are so simple, anybody can follow it to a T. So they can scale very quickly because it's easy to train, it's easy to repeat, and it's easy to grow. And that's what you want to do with your real estate business, is you want to create McDonald's level systems and processes that you can follow, that if you bring in an admin, a buyer's agent, a listing agent, a virtual assistant, anybody can follow for your buyers, your sellers, your closings, your nurturing, your online lead follow-up, your prospecting. You want to have SOPs for absolutely everything in your business, and that is going to be your ticket to scaling from, you know, what most would consider entry level, which is 24 deals per year, all the way to the point where you're doing upwards of 100 deals per year. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and hopefully that gives you an understanding of the 6 skills that you need as an agent to crush it. I continuously work on these by studying, buying people's programs, paying for coaching mentorship, and it makes a world of a difference for your business. So if you have any other questions, drop a comment below. Otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.